Ever since Rue got back together with Jules, I could care less about that entire storyline. Hey guys, welcome back to Candid Cinema. I'm Amanda, otherwise known as AMX ND Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Today I will be reviewing season 2, episode 2 of Euphoria. And just up top, this is a disclaimer. There's some really tough subject matter in this episode as well. So if you haven't watched the episode, if you haven't watched the show, this is your warning ahead of what I'm about to talk about. Episode 2 starts out with Nate, obviously considering what happened last episode. Yay! He gets taken to the hospital, but this opening sequence of the love triangle that is forming for season 2 is Maddie, Cassie, and Nate, which, in my honest opinion, it is way more interesting than what's going on with Rue, Jules, and Elliott, which I'll get into after. But the whole Maddie, Cassie, Nate love triangle is just, it's so messy. Because we see Nate as he's in his hospital bed, whatever he's going through mentally. That's the perspective that we see at the beginning of this episode. We see that his dad's right by his side in the hospital room, and Nate's thinking about his life and, you know, everything that he could want, but he can't have because he feels like he is a really shitty person. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. And for me, when I look at Cassie and everything she's gone through, they're not a good mix. However, after watching this episode, Nate's entire perspective of what love is and what a relationship is completely different than the way he saw it with Maddie. So with Cassie, we see a different side of Nathaniel. He's still a horrible person. I'm not saying that he should ever be in a relationship ever again, considering what happened with Maddie. We see that with Maddie, Nate took full advantage of her. He was very aggressive with her, rough, obviously abused her. But then with Cassie, the power dynamic switches as we see in this episode, and we see the life that Nate wants with Cassie within this first sequence of the episode. And then we get into some other things about the relationship. But in this opening scene, we saw a lot. There's a lot going through Nate's head, which was alarming for someone to think of all of that stuff, especially with like his dad. And then I really love the quick cuts to show everything that's going on, everyone that he sees, from Jules to Maddie to Cassie to his dad to his childhood to so many other things. And it was just really well done, this opening. Very explicit, as we all know that this show is. So that's the opening of this in the hospital. Then we cut to Cassie, who is completely distraught over the fact that Nate's in there, hasn't contacted her, but he contacted Maddie. So Maddie calls Cassie. Oh my God, like Nate left me a nice little text message. Cassie got nothing. So it's also the fact of like being hidden, which Cassie's not used to, on top of everything. And what I really love that Sydney Sweeney is doing is that there's pieces of Cassie that's slowly being peeled off, and you just see Sydney as Cassie completely unraveling before our eyes. But here's the thing, and I was thinking about this last night. The reason why Cassie is gravitating towards Nate is because she has played it safe in every single relationship. She played it safe with McKay, and she still didn't get treated that well, but in a different way. Cassie really went through it, especially having the abortion last season with McKay. And those decisions that she made with McKay were by the book in what she thought a relationship should be. She was comfortable with McKay in making those decisions, and she still ended up very hurt. Because having that abortion did leave her in a very depressive state. She doesn't know who she is. There's a loss of identity, a loss of herself, maybe even like a loss of innocence in that case. And that is what she's feeling right now, which means that she's going to make the total opposite decisions, because every single proper decision that she has made up to this point has still ended up in a very difficult situation for her. So with Nate, she's doing the opposite of everything that she's ever done. She's very uncomfortable with the situation with Nate, but she's pushing herself to say yes because it's a different decision. I'm not saying any of this is right, but I do understand where Cassie is coming from, where being with Nate is not safe. Your best friend is Maddie. That's her ex-boyfriend. And he's keeping her a secret on top of all this, and that Cassie's really scared that Maddie's going to find out. The whole relationship being secretive isn't something that Cassie wants. That's what's making her spiral. She craves the attention and she craves everything from Nate for whatever reason. I don't understand, but it's just different decision making for her. And she's straying away from the path that made her feel comfortable and safe and the right, just the right thing to do in her case, in what she thought a relationship should be. Then we cut to Rue and Jules and Elliott. Listen, ever since Rue got back together with Jules, I could care less about that entire storyline, because for me, you did all that in season 1, and now Rue has changed because she's still doing drugs with Elliott behind Jules' back, which you're already keeping something from your significant other that you so desperately love. So you're just making it a toxic relationship right off the bat, because that is a pretty big secret to keep from your significant other. So I don't like what the writers are doing with Rue, Jules, and Elliott whatsoever. That is a love triangle that you had to write it in order to counter the more interesting love triangle between Maddie, Cassie, and Nate, whereas that's an interesting situation. This is just like, but why is this even happening? Rue and Jules shouldn't even be together in the first place. I don't understand why that's even happening. And then Rue and Elliott is a very, very bad combination, especially for Rue, but they have to make this a triangle to make Jules and Rue's relationship work, because many people don't care about them together by themselves. There has to be another factor to carry their relationship in the second season. Whenever they're on screen, it's like more of like an eye roll. I don't care for them. The whole like, I love you in the hallway, and then Rue pretending to not know Elliott, and then Elliott saying that they met on New Year's Eve, which then causes Jules to be like, well, like, why didn't you say anything to me? Like, why wouldn't you tell me? It's like, you guys just started a relationship again. That was New Year's Eve. It was a very small encounter, yet you're making it a big deal on top of that. So it's like, even with Jules, if Rue is already keeping that secret from you, what else is she hiding? Like, you're also doing it to yourself in the case where there's like zero communication between the two of them, yet you're in a relationship. So it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't like the writing for the three of them. For me, I just don't care about Jules and Rue. I don't. I want to see more of Rue and her family dynamic. I thought that was great later in the episode. I just want to see Rue with her family more so, and have that develop a bit more, especially with her addiction. But I guess we'll see that as the season goes on. I just want more of Rue as an individual and not attached to Jules, because I just think that they both bring each other down. And it's really funny where when Rue's either with Elliott or at home, I really enjoy those scenes. Like I really think that the writing for those scenes are strong. Or even Rue with Fez, like I feel like that connection to them during those conversations. But whenever Rue is with Jules, it's like, I'm checked out. I don't care. The same thing with Jules with like either Maddie, with Kat. They went bowling afterwards and she was genuinely having fun with them, and she had a heart-to-heart with Maddie, which I really love. Like, it's just those things where as individual characters, I think that Rue and Jules are great by themselves, but together it is just the most irritating couple on this show. Like I said for the first episode, like I said for season 1, it's the lack of communication that really just doesn't make their relationship work. Moving forward, we get a little bit more of Kat in her relationship with Ethan. They're really cute together. They're posting pictures. They're just saying, I love you over the phone. Kat's missing something. And that's okay. Not every relationship that's picture perfect. No relationship is perfect, even if it looks like it on the outside. There's so many ins and outs with relationships, and it's great that they're showing this side of it as well for Kat. Ethan's really sweet. He's handsome, he's funny, he makes Kat feel appreciated and loved, and that's a beautiful thing. But Kat has this different side to her. Ever since she got into a relationship with Ethan, she hasn't been able to explore that side. It got to the point where she started lying to Maddie and the rest of the girls, saying that he's awesome in bed. And there's all these different scenarios that she's making up in her head to make her feel better and to like make her friends think that she still has a great relationship. Meanwhile, she's having these like dream sequences of like Dothraki men coming to like take her and doing whatever like they please with her. It's more of that assertiveness that she would want in a man, and she wants a man and not like a boy. So I think that that is what's playing on her head, which causes her to spiral as well. She thinks that something's wrong with her because Ethan, on paper, where she makes a pros and cons list, there's no cons, there's all pros, but she just wants that extra like feeling. There has to be that feeling like deep within you that it's like, I want him so badly, and like that's not what she's feeling with Ethan. It's more of like just this baseline romance that she fell into, because again, that's what she thinks a relationship is. There's no right way to form a relationship. It's more of a connection between two people, and I get that, but you need to explore those avenues to find out, well, what do I want in a relationship? And they don't know yet because they're still in high school. We're exploring that with Cassie and Nate and Maddie and Kat and even Lexi with Fez. Like, we're exploring what these characters want from a relationship, because in season 1, they were all stuck with the same basic relationships where it was like the jock with the cheerleader, because that is what we've all known. We've all been conditioned to know that that's what ends up clicking, right? Or like even with Kat and what she fantasizes about and stuff like that. So everyone is kind of looking for a different relationship, including Rue, to be perfectly honest, because I don't see why she would be this attached to someone who's doing more harm than good, especially in regards to drugs. So we see that there's different relationships forming because they're experimenting with the idea of what love is and what a connection to another human being is. So I think that that's what this season is really focusing on. And we see that within the first 2 episodes. So I think that we're going to get a lot of opposites and really, really poor decisions, as we saw in this episode. I touched upon all these different characters. Then we have Nate's dad coming in, trying to figure out who the hell beat his son to a pulp. So he goes to the Howard's house, and Cassie ends up ratting on Fez in front of Lexi, and Lexi was just so annoyed with this decision. Meanwhile, no one knows that she's actually doing it to protect Nate, and Lexi has her first snap where she's always sat by and done nothing in situations, including Rue's overdose. That's something that has stayed with her. So in this case, she doesn't want anything bad to happen to Fez, which is like really cute because I just love the two of them so much. Total opposites of this, as I said. This is very different for Lexi, very different for Fez. So Lexi ends up going to visit Fez, which was like the most adorable encounter. And Nate's dad, Cal, ends up following Lexi to the market. If Sam Levinson does anything right, it's create the damn tension with these characters. That was one of the most intense moments between Fez and Cal, considering that there was like a gun in his pocket and they were walking around the convenience store that he has. Lexi there, Fez there, Faye just in the corner, which I can't stand her this season. But it was just really intense. Obviously, nothing happened because Lexi was there. So if Lexi wasn't there, then I'm pretty sure Cal would have just shot Fez. It was just a really intense moment. Then as we get to the ending of this episode, Cassie gets in the car with Nate again because Nate wants to talk to her. They drive and drive and drive. Really sketchy. For us, we see Nate as like he's gonna literally kill her, because earlier in this episode he said that I won't kill you. Like, I'll just leave you alone. But Maddie will most definitely kill you if she ever finds out about her and Nate. So we had that conversation. And then we see Nate in the car with Cassie. He pulls up under this highway and he tells Cassie, he's like, listen, I really like you, which is something that we haven't heard Nate say in that way. So I feel like it's very genuine with his feelings towards Cassie, because again, at the beginning of this episode, we saw that he wants a whole life with her, wants to marry her and have kids and all of that, which is something that he never saw with Maddie. So he's genuinely telling Cassie, he's like, I really like you and I'm a terrible person. I don't think this can work publicly because of Maddie and the whole situation. It's going to look bad. Fez saying to stay away from Cassie and staying away from all of like Rue's friends. Like, that was the whole point of the threat. And he knows that, and Nate knows that, and he doesn't want to hurt Cassie. That's why he's saying goodbye to her. That's the other thing to this, is that Nate, being that much of a terrible person, recognizes that he can't hurt Cassie. So that's interesting too for his character. Again, I'm not saying he deserves any good in this world. I'm just analyzing the situation. We have Sydney Sweeney give another solid performance this season, like absolute perfection. The camera stays on Cassie and she is just full of tears, crying, frustrated, all of that. Everything that Nate's saying is being processed by Cassie. And I love that Levinson kept the camera on her the entire time that he was talking, because who cares what he's feeling? Who cares what he has to say? Cassie's the one who's spiraling and unraveling right before our eyes. Right after Nate finishes talking, Cassie's like, I'm gonna leave, gets out the door, goes to this massive construction site. And rightfully so, Nate, whereas he would have left Maddie at the side of the road because of her little outburst, Nate follows Cassie through the construction site into the building where there's just like wood panels and stairs and all of that. So right there, you see the difference between Nate caring for Cassie and then Nate caring for Maddie, which was like literally non-existent for him and Maddie. That was like the most toxic relationship that we've ever seen. So they share an intimate moment, but it's more of like the power shift of Nate and Cassie. Nate is completely vulnerable with Cassie, whereas Nate had to be more assertive and aggressive with Maddie because they kept clashing. They're butting heads a lot. So he can't be vulnerable with Maddie. He tries to be vulnerable with Maddie, but she just has a really smart mouth and would aggravate him. He felt like in that relationship, he couldn't express his emotions correctly. That's why he was angry majority of the time. Whereas with Cassie, he's very soft-spoken, a little bit more laid back, and he really talks to her about certain things. It's a very different dynamic. So the power shift is really interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes, especially for Cassie. Like, I don't care about Nate, but it's an interesting shift for him. I'm all about the growth of Sydney Sweeney as an actress in this season, and, you know, just Cassie's story to see where it goes. Episode 2 was a solid episode. Again, to recap, I do not care about Rue and Jules together. I am here for the drama with Maddie and Cassie and Nate. I really like that dynamic. It's the most interesting part of the show right now for season 2. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. You can always follow me over at AMX ND Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. I'll catch you guys next time. Keep watching movies.